Attention, please take your seats at this time as we are about to begin now.
The country, emerged women are repowering political structures.
More women are representing Coloradans than ever before.
Nevada women lawmakers make up the majority of the legislature.
Michelle Wu, first woman and the first person of color to be elected mayor.
We are literally changing the face of leadership because we are the face of the new American majority. By 2030, the majority of American voters will be millennials and younger. And by 2045, the majority of the country will be people of color.
Representation matters. That's why at Emerge,
we are training leaders of the future.
More than 5,000 Democratic women have been trained to date, and over 1,000 Emerge women are in office right now. Because we know when voters see themselves reflected in leadership, they get engaged.
When voters are engaged, we all win.
And when women win, we get stuff done. That's how we build lasting, fundamental, and foundational change.
And that's one of the important principles behind Emerge, fighting for the ideals of our country.
We will continue to move the direction of this country forward, from the state and local to national level.
We are prepared to move the needle.
Lean into our strengths and win together.
The new American majority is here.
Emerge.
It's amazing to see so many builders of this organization and builders of our democracy. Good afternoon. It's amazing to hear the forks and the knives clicking and the luncheon chicken. I mean, we are back, right? We are back in so many ways. My name is Lateefah Simon, and I am a native San Franciscan. I am an elected member of Bay Area Rapid Transit District, one of only 3 transit elected districts in the country. And most importantly, I am an Emerge alum. There's so much that we can sort of put into an hour, but what's really exciting to me and why I wanted to be here today, one, is to thank the Emerge family. Come on, Emerge. Emerge sisters, there's a number of us in the audience who have had this amazing opportunity in our lives, and I'll talk about mine later, to come into a sisterhood that has been about not just getting elected, not just preparing to run and win, but to govern and fundamentally change the ways our community works, meaning good schools, great health care, wonderful transportation, paid leave, and I can go on. And we saw just last week the power of us. How many amazing victories did we have last week? How many issues did not only emerge candidates, but candidates who care about the safety and the beauty and beloved community, how many of them lifted up one of the most important fundamental rights that we must fight to gain, to keep, to hold dear, our rights to our bodies. Abortion rights was #1 on the list of what voters in this country cared about. And we know, we can be clear that that fight isn't over. Am I right? That women and gender-expansive folks across the country need and deserve a bench. They need, and we need, and need, and need a space and place from California to Des Moines to Detroit to Louisiana, where we can come and build our power. I was about to text Ashante this morning and tell her that maybe in 10 years, I'll be on this podium announcing that I not only ran one of the largest transit districts in the country, but that I'm a member of the United States Congress because I had Emerge. Emerge is building this amazing pipeline. And again, it is from school boards to the vice presidency. It's real. It's tangible. Before I introduce our amazing, wonderful executive director, I do want to tell you a little bit how I came into the Emerge community. I was in the class of 2009, and I was a single mom, right? That was a good class. I was in the class of 2009, and I had just come off the heels of running reentry programs for now our fantastic Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, when she was a district attorney. And I saw what it took, one, for a Black woman to run and win office and to stay in that office and lead with dignity and pride and brilliance. And I said, one day I'm gonna be a campaign manager and maybe I can just join Emerge and kind of learn how it works. And then I met women in that class. And in fact, I was interviewed by Mejia, who is now the controller-elect of the great state of California, who is an Emerge alum. And she said, if you come in here, one day you're going to want to run. And it was after the death of my husband. It was after the death of my husband. He died from a very rare leukemia, and after 2.5 years of literally living in hospitals with my babies. After burying him, after he died on Father's Day, I was back on public transportation. I'm legally blind. I've never driven a car in my life. And it was at that moment, with those groceries and little Layla, I thought, well, if not me, whom? This is a system that impacts 500,000 people a day. I ran and I went and I beat an incumbent and I got more votes than anyone who had ever run for that district in the history of Bay Area rapid transit elections. I ran again and won. They tried to push me off, but I fought and I got back on. And forever and ever and ever, I thank Emerge. There's more for us to do, but I'm damn glad a single widowed, legally blind mother is in the seat where I get to make policy decisions, and I'm held accountable by an amazing institution. With that, that is one of now thousands of stories. We are training women not only again to run, but to win, to fight, to create good policy so that we are all better. Ashante will tell you a little bit more. Thank you so much for being here today, and eat this chicken. Come on, Ashante.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Lateefah, you are amazing, and I cannot wait until I get to call you Congresswoman, because we're just putting it out in the air. We know it's going to happen one day. I'm just really excited to be here with all of you this afternoon. It was actually 7 years ago that I was in this same exact spot as the first political director of Emerge, giving our post-election overview. And now here I am as the first Black woman to lead Emerge as president. And it is such a true honor and privilege to lead this network. I do want to thank you all so much for attending as we highlight how women, especially Emerge women, are defending democracy. But before I jump in, I just want to call out a few groups for a special thank you. First, to our amazing co-hosts and board members, Anna Ma and Bridget Hennessy, for everything that they did. For both of them, this is their first year on our board, and they just jumped right in. I'm so thankful for both of them. Also thankful for our national board of directors. We have several of them here today and also watching as well. To our entire host committee for what you all do, and for those who show up time and time again to support the network. And of course, to our amazing sponsors and supporters of this event. I also have to give a huge thank you to the Emerge staff for their work putting this event together and their tireless efforts every day in service of Emerge's mission to change the faces of power in this country. All right, now we are ready to officially get this party started because it is a party today. When we say Emerge Women are defenders of democracy, we aren't being hyperbolic. With more than 1,000 alums currently serving in office, more than 650 who are on the ballot November 8th, and a 71% win rate in 2022, the power of Emerge alums can be felt at every level of office across the country. It's felt through trailblazers such as Congresswoman-elect Becca Balint, the first woman and first out LGBTQ person elected to the U.S. House from Vermont, the last state that will be sending a woman to Congress. And of course, California Controller-elect Mejia Cohen, who is the first Black woman to serve in that role. It can be felt in states like Pennsylvania, where we were able to flip the state house, and Michigan, where, thanks to the help of Emerge alums like State Senator Mallory McMorrow, we were able to flip both legislative chambers and build the state's first Democratic trifecta in 40 years. And it's felt every day in our communities as we see more powerful Democratic women come into leadership, repower our offices, and fight for our needs, our rights, and our futures. The impact Emerge alums have is immeasurable, not only in the policies they help pass, but in the representation they provide. Remember, if you can see it, you can be it. And our alums are helping a whole generation see themselves represented in office and encouraging them to get involved. Just like Danica Rome, who is an Emerge alum. She is the executive director of Emerge Virginia, and she is a delegate in the Virginia State House. She was also the first out and seated transgender woman elected to state legislative office nationwide. Danica is an excellent example of the power of this network. She is someone who was an alum, who became one of our greatest supporters and advocates, and is now a member of our team. I could go on and on, because my favorite thing to do in this role is brag, but I gotta save some for the presentation later. But for now, I'm going to turn the screen over to someone who knows a lot about defending democracy. We are thrilled to have a very special message from Secretary Hillary Clinton today.
Hello to all my friends at Emerge and to everyone watching today. I'm really excited to speak about one of my favorite organizations and everything they're doing to make our country and our democracy stronger by electing more women. Emerge gives women the tools and support, not just to run, but to win. I know firsthand what it's like to be a woman on the campaign trail and the unique challenges that we face. And Emerge empowers and supports women. So far, Emerge has helped more than 1,000 Democratic women win office all across the country and at every level of government. Each one of these women has the power to make a difference in our communities and our country every single day. Emerge candidates are truly defenders of democracy. They've stood up for our most basic rights as women and as Americans. Emerge is committed to building a strong bench of women in politics and public service so that the next time our rights are under attack, women will be there and ready to fight back. If you want to be a defender of democracy too, please join me in supporting Emerge. Please visit emergeamerica.org to donate and learn more.
We are so thankful for Secretary Clinton's longtime support of the Emerge Network. Throughout this entire year, even up until election eve, people kept coming up to me and just asking me, Ashanti, aren't you scared? Everything is saying that it's not going to be a good year, and I'm just so worried. And my response was always the same, and it will remain unwavering, that we always have good election nights at Emerge. That is because we continue to remain strong experts in the field of recruiting and training Democratic women to run for office. But what's even more important is that 5,000 women and counting have trusted us to be the first stop on their road to political office and a main source of support and encouragement as they are on their political journey. Throughout the country, Emerge women are standing up as the defenders of democracy. There we go. This week, you have heard the pundits and pollsters talk about the new American majority and the role they played as voters and candidates last Tuesday. Well, we at Emerge knew about this powerful voting bloc because we are an organization that focuses on the now and the future. With our Emerge 2035 goals, we're focusing on expanding our reach and reaching 100,000 women of the new American majority, fostering a lift as we climb culture, that when our women are in elected office, that they do run for higher office, and that they're also recruiting an Emerge alum to run for the seat that they are vacating, because this is how we continue to make progress. And doing what we do best, repowering political structures, making sure that we have women who are not only getting elected, but considering appointments to boards and commissions that we know are extremely important as well. The polls got it wrong. The pundits got it wrong. Traditional polling is based on traditional candidates, and Emerge alums are transformational candidates and leaders. Our alums are rewriting the playbook for what it means to run and win in today's political climate. They're bringing their lived experiences to the campaign trail and speaking to voters in a way that moves them to vote. It's about the candidate quality. Emerge candidates are the best, period. And it starts with our training. From the moment they enter our program, our goal is to create community-driven candidates. This year at Emerge, we focused on doing a major update to our curriculum that doubled down on our commitment to equity and justice and ensuring that our alums are given the tools to relate and speak to all of the diverse members in their community. This excites voters to know that their neighbor is running, their neighbor who pays the same bills as them, their neighbor who shops at the same stores, who knows the real opportunities and challenges that face their community, and seeing someone from their community who looks like them and wants to represent them. Going forward, I think others in the Democratic Party should follow Emerge's lead and continue to run candidates who speak to the experiences of Democratic voters and that can excite and energize them. It was Roe-vember, and I love this slide oh so much. I actually got my start as a young woman in politics, so to continue to see the next generation showing up and showing out, I absolutely love it. So, what is this slide really telling us? Well, Republicans effed around and found out. That's what it's really telling us. This year, they decided that this was the time to take away abortion rights and also put people in same-sex and interracial marriages on notice at the same time. And women and people took it personally, as they should. When you come for someone's rights, there will be consequences. Republicans learned that firsthand this November. Kansas was the warning sign, and they chose to ignore it. Then voters in California, Michigan, and Vermont enshrined abortion rights into their state constitutions with the help of Emerge alums leading that effort. And Kentucky defeated its abortion ban. What a miscalculation to underestimate women and young voters. Even our president said it, that people were about to find out about the power of women, and they absolutely did. Our alums achieved a 71% win rate this election cycle when so many people thought that Democrats would completely lose power. Breaking down some of our new American majority numbers some more, overall, our new American majority candidates had a 72% win rate. We can break that down even further with our LGBTQ alums having a 60% win rate, women under 35 having a 69% win rate, and women of color having a 73% win rate. Now this next slide, y'all, I don't think you're ready for this one. 97% win rate for our alums that ran for re-election. Who else can say this? Who else got this? Nobody. It's Emerge. It's us. We are absolutely one of the best ROIs in Democratic politics. Oh, the first but not the last, as our amazing vice president likes to say. Let's break this down. I know she was running a little late, but we are so excited for Mejia. I don't know if she is in the room yet. Here she is, yay! I mean, you just know I had to put you in the slide. I'm like, we are so happy for you and congratulations. We're very excited about Stephanie Thomas, who won her race for Secretary of State, which is extremely important, and we're going to be having a great conversation with some of our Emerge alums today who are Secretaries of State. And Stephanie is the first Black woman to hold that position in Connecticut, but she is also the only Black woman to be a Secretary of State in the New England area. In 2017, Emerge created its partnership with the Democratic Attorneys General Association to focus on recruiting more women to run for the powerful AG position. And this year, Emerge got its first 2 attorneys general. We are excited about Andrea Campbell. She was elected in Massachusetts, and she is the first Black woman to hold that seat. And Charity Clark from Vermont. I'm really excited for the DAGA board meetings that we have. I sit on their C4 board, and I'm finally going to be at the table with Emerge alums. So that's going to be really exciting. Many of you saw Brooke Learman. We highlighted her during our Emerge Across America event when she was in her primary for comptroller, and we are proud to say that she ran that race and is the first woman to hold that position in Massachusetts. Wednesday Campos has gone, from Maryland, Wednesday Campos has gone from being the youngest woman in the Oregon State House to the youngest woman in the Oregon State Senate. And we're really excited about Amelia Sykes as well, who is a part of our Seated Together program. Oh, sorry, slides are getting messed up. I talk about Amelia next, our Emerge Congressional Caucus. So far, Amelia, who was a part of our Seated Together program, was elected to her seat. This was another race that the polls got wrong and said that she absolutely had no chance of winning. And right now, she is in Washington, D.C. as Congresswoman-elect. We saw Congresswomen McBath, Sansbury, Spanberger, and Schreier get re-elected to their seats. We're really excited about Abigail and Kim because those were 2 races that were heavily targeted, but they never broke a sweat because they knew that they had it. And we have 2 Emerge alums from Oregon who are going to Congress. Val Hoyle and Andrea Salinas, they are absolutely amazing. Just cannot wait to see all of the fabulous things that these women are going to be able to do together. And of course, Becca Ballant, who I mentioned earlier. With her race, she is a trailblazer, but during the primary, we had multiple Emerge alums that were running for this seat. And for us, this is good, because when this happens, it is an important part of how we change the narrative of women's representation. To see multiple qualified women running for the same position is not a bad thing. Thank you. We need for this to become part of the norm as we work to increase the number of women serving in office. And because of this, we knew that the chances were very, very high that an Emerge alum was going to win that seat and get elected. So we are very excited about the Congresswoman-elect. State legislatures. At Emerge, we focus on this every cycle. We're not one of the group that goes, oh, 10 years have passed, time for us to focus on state houses because of redistricting. All right, that was a little shady, but we don't, because it is a part of our strategy to repower political structures. You need to have a long-term strategy of flipping seats and having candidates ready to run when vacancies happen, and anything possible can happen. And this is how we ensure that we don't lose ground every election cycle. Because it helps us build political power. This is what our State House strategy has helped accomplish. If you look at the top 10 states that have the most women serving in state houses, Emerge has affiliates in 9 out of 10 of those states. Nevada, New Mexico, Oregon, and Colorado have majority woman legislative chambers due to Emerge alums. We built new trifectas in Maryland, Michigan, and Massachusetts. We built a new Democratic supermajority in Vermont. We flipped the Pennsylvania State House for the first time since 2010. We staved off a Republican supermajority in the Wisconsin State Assembly. This is what we do. Investing in a women-led future is at the core of Emerge's mission, and it is working. I got another fun slide for y'all. A round of applause for Governor-elect Katie Hobbs. So the governor-elect is an alum. She was also an executive director of Emerge Arizona, and she's one of our biggest supporters. She is the embodiment of the Emerge 2035 vision, even to the point where when she ran for higher office, she reached back and recruited another Emerge alum in her district to run for that seat. So we are excited to have her as our first state governor, and she joins the amazing Lou Guerrero from Guam, who is our first alum to be elected governor of a U.S. territory. Lou is absolutely fabulous. You should learn more about her. She did one of our boot camp training programs, and when she applied, one of my colleagues called me. She said, Ashanti, this woman from Guam wants to come to the DC boot camp. What do I do? I'm like, you accept her. We accept her. And she was absolutely amazing during that boot camp. She was a standout star, so we were not surprised to see her win her first race, and we're so proud about her reelection. All of this ties together into the future that Emerge is creating, especially when it comes to the new American majority and elevating women. One of the programs that we started this year was Seated Together, which focuses on helping Black women run for higher office. This pilot program has already been very successful. We saw Emerge alum London Lamar go from the youngest woman in the Tennessee State House to the youngest woman in the Tennessee State Senate. I mentioned Congresswoman-elect Amelia Sykes. We have Joanna McClinton, who is set to be the House Speaker-elect in Pennsylvania and would be the first Black woman to hold that position. And soon you will be hearing from the amazing Leslie Herod, who is one of the co-founders of Seated Together and who is running for mayor of Denver. We have also expanded our work on women in law enforcement to double down on what we're doing around judicial work. This is another way that Emerge is innovating and thinking ahead of what we need to see in the country as things continue to change. You can't change the criminal justice system without changing the faces of criminal justice reform. That means we need more women, women of color in these positions. And we also know that the road to the Supreme Court starts at the state and the local level. Given everything that has happened with the fall of Roe, we also know that judges will be essential in helping protect abortion rights, determining if that woman goes to jail for miscarrying, determining if that nurse goes to jail for advising a person to get an abortion, and if that doctor goes to jail for providing the abortion. Judges are going to be really critical, but we know this is just one issue. And there are so many more where we need judges who will protect basic human and civil rights. We're also gearing up to select the next class of Emerge. So these are our affiliates where we have applications open. Please make sure you share this and encourage that great woman you know in your life to run for office. I am truly so proud of this amazing network and so thankful for the Emerge team, volunteers, donors, stakeholders, and partners who help make what I just presented possible. I don't want to bring us down, but we know last night a certain man with a horrible orange tan decided that he was going to announce that he would be running for president again in 2024. The news immediately shifted to how Democrats need to get ready for this moment. At Emerge, we don't have to get ready because we stay ready. In 2016, despite losses at the top of the ticket, we saw Emerge alums win up and down the ballot. In 2018, a new record was set for women serving in Congress, and Emerge alums helped make that happen. In 2020, our network saw over 1,000 of our alums serving in elected office. And I just showed you what we did in 2022. Our work grows more and more important every year, especially when it comes to defending our democracy. Emerge candidates are the best line of defense across the country, up and down the ballot, when it comes to defeating those who run on authoritarian and hateful policies that harm women, families, and communities. When you invest in the Emerge network, you always win, because this is Emerge and we are all Emerge. Thank you.
Since its founding, Emerge has been on the front lines of transforming our elected offices. Since its founding, Emerge has been on the front lines of transforming our elected offices by creating a network of sisterhood for democratic women. Women should be at every table where decisions are made, not just for the sake of representation, but because we bring a new perspective and our voices matter. Emerge gives women a seat at that table by providing the tools they need to be successful on the campaign trail and supporting them along the way. So many women leaders are now the last line of defense for equal rights, and Emerge played a pivotal part in helping so many of those women get elected. As a woman leader, I've stood up to sexism, misogyny, hate, and discrimination, and I hope that's encouraged younger women to see that they can too. Whether it's standing up to the infringement on our fundamental reproductive rights, or campaigning against whatever fringe candidate the GOP sends our way, women will never back down from a fight.
Join us in welcoming Oregon Secretary of State Shemia Fagan and Colorado Secretary of State Jena Griswold.
And as these two sheroes come up to the stage, I'm gonna remind us, get comfortable, sisters, get comfortable. I'm gonna remind us actually what it does take to win. And as your MC and an Emerge alum, these sisters will tell you what is one of the first things we learn as Emerge women, how to
dial for dollars.
Yes. See, we just met today, like right now. And in the 40 seconds I have left to speak, I want to actually give it up for Mejia Cohen one more time because she'll be signing all of your tax return checks. And as an alum, when she interviewed me, she said, your greatest fear will be asking for help for yourself, but it's not about you. It's not about you. It's when you win what you will do. Thank you, Mejia. Thank you, Mejia. Because the work of standing in room after room after room after room, literally interviewing 10 times a day for a job that is thankless, it is spiritual work. So what I want you all to think about in this moment, before we hear this amazing conversation of two women who actually put themselves in front of the world, grace and warts and all, to serve the people, is think about how you can support what I'm gonna call the Fierce Girls Network. Because we learned about the Old Boys Network and how they're dumping dollars into those folks who wanna take away all the things that we fought for. Well, this is our network. We are building not only benches, we are building infrastructure, we are building sisterhood, we are building literally pathways to make the wrongs right. In the middle of your tables, you'll see some envelopes if you want to dive right in, because there's somebody in here who gave $50,000 who said they'll match dollar for dollar. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Dollar for dollar. So if you want to go all in, I know checks are super old school, but you can also write your credit card information on the back. For the folks, I'm a millennial, so I don't really get the QR codes, but apparently if you hold your camera with the card, my daughter has taught me it will go to this thing. But for today, if there's a QR code on the back of your program, just take a minute while you're listening to, I think, what we all need to hear. Not only what it takes to win and run, but what is most critical after you win is having a network of thousands who hold your wings. Thanks, sisters. All right, let's give.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I'm Shemia Fagan, and I am honored to serve as Oregon's Secretary of State and Lieutenant Governor. In 1997, my big brother was driving us to Portland. We were gonna go see our mom for the first time in, at that point, it had probably been 2 or 3 years. My dad was a single parent raising us in very small towns in rural Oregon. And my mom battled meth and opioid addiction for most of my life and was homeless on and off the streets of Portland. But she finally had a home and she sent us a letter with an address and asked us to come visit. So we pulled up to this beautiful home, kind of a Victorian style house with a big wraparound porch. And she hugged us and then walked us around to the front steps. Instead of walking up the steps, she dropped to her hands and knees and she crawled under the porch. And then she invited us into her home. So my brother and I crawled under the porch and she had a sleeping bag unzipped so we weren't just sitting on dirt. She showed us a box that she kept with her full of letters from us and pictures of us. And that box reminded her that even on her darkest days, an ordinary life was within reach. And so she fought for it. And when she passed away in 2014, she'd been clean for almost 6 years and was living in the first house she'd ever owned. And the minister who officiated her funeral captured it perfectly. She said, Trish reached the place of an ordinary life. Just an ordinary life. A job and a house and a dog. But it didn't just happen to her. She fought for it with everything she had in her. And I get to be here with you today as a Secretary of State and a Lieutenant Governor. Because of the policies and the people who put an ordinary life within reach for me. Like the public schools in Oregon and a teacher named Mr. Wagner in 4th grade who noticed when a 10-year-old girl was losing hope. As my mom disappeared into her addiction, my dad really struggled to raise 3 kids by himself in a town of 600 people. So Mr. Wagner invited me to join an after-school chess club. And so I did, and by the end of that year, I traveled from this tiny little town in Oregon to Portland and won the Oregon State Chess Tournament. I was the first girl to win it. I feel like that's important to mention in this room. There's another first for Ashanti. And I remember how I felt when I was walking out of the parking lot, and my older brothers, who were usually picking on me, they were hoisting my trophy over their heads and chanting, "My sister's the champion." And I finally saw it. An ordinary life was within reach. And so I fought for it. So what an extraordinary honor to be with you today, not as a broken kid, but as a loving mom. To be with you not as a statistic lost to an addiction crisis, but as a civil rights lawyer. And not as a, cynic who sits on the sidelines, but as a defender of democracy. To get to be with you, to thank you for investing in Emerge. Because when I walked in to my first day of Emerge in 2009, where's Lateefah at? There we go, 09, I see you. I didn't know what canvassing was. I planned to talk to voters, this is true, by setting up a table at our local Safeway, you guys call it Vaughn's here in California, and just annoy the shit out of people while they were getting their groceries. That was my plan to reach voters. I didn't know how to make a fundraising call, and I wouldn't have known who to call if I had. But when I walked out of Emerge, I had the tools to run and the tools to win and to make policies that make an ordinary life within reach for Oregon families. So when candidates like Katie Hobbs and Lateefah Simon and Leslie Herod and Jena Griswold and the thousands of Emerge women who you have invested in, when they run, they win. And when they win, they make a difference in the lives of millions of people who just want a chance to live an ordinary life. So that's why I love serving as Oregon Secretary of State. That's why I'm excited to be here and have a conversation with my good colleague about defending democracy, because when every eligible voter can vote, when every ballot is counted, folks, when our democracy works, progress is always within reach.
All I can say is, wow, right? So I've known Shemia now for a couple of years. She won Secretary of State in 2020, is that right, in Oregon? Flipping a state red to blue, but I had never heard her speak. And just, I'm getting inspired. And I hear so many stump speeches. And I just want to thank all of you for believing in folks like us. You know, when I decided to run for office, it really seemed like an impossible task. I grew up in a similar background in a cabin with an outhouse outside in rural Colorado on food stamps. I'm the first in my family to go to a four-year college. Growing up, my mom would work 2 jobs. It was tough. I started working the summer after 7th grade. And the reason I went to college at all is not because it was some expectation. It's because I saw a lot of Colorado families were struggling just like mine. So my big goal in life was just to go to college. I did that, and then I went off to law school at the University of Pennsylvania. And I thought, you know, I'm going to run for office. But folks like me, they don't run for office. And more than that, running for Secretary of State in Colorado, a Democrat hadn't won in 60 years. I know. It wasn't. On top of that, I was 32 when I ran. I had never ran for office before. People who grew up in cabins with outhouses outside do not run for office typically. And more than that, I was up against the only statewide Republican incumbent left in the state of Colorado. But I'll tell you what, Emerge was there. Emerge was there to encourage me. My Emerge sisters are the ones who showed up when everybody thought it was an impossible task. And by the way, they're still with me. These are lifelong friendships who support you through your whole career. So in 2018, the impossible race became possible. We set fundraising records. We organized the state. I was the first Democrat woman Secretary of State elected in the state of Colorado. The youngest Secretary of State elected in the nation, which I need you guys to know, now that I'm in my about to be in second term, I continue to be the youngest elected Secretary of State. Do not forget that, please. And I became the first statewide Emerge grad to win in the state of Colorado. So we flipped the historic seat, but more importantly, it's what you do with it. My first year in office, I led the largest democracy reform package in the entire country. And over the last 4 years as Secretary of State, I've focused on increasing access to the polls. Because I know folks who grow up like me in a town with more elk than people have the same amount of constitutional rights to cast a ballot than the people in the big cities. No matter your zip code, no matter the color of your skin, no matter your gender, all of us are American citizens who deserve to be respected and fundamental freedoms. So over the last 4 years, we've increased drop boxes by 65% in the state of Colorado. We partnered with tribes in the state of Colorado and saw a 20% increase in tribal voting. That's what you can do. I worked with Representative Leslie Herod, who you'll hear from, to pass parolee reenfranchisement, restoring voting rights to 11,000 Coloradans. And when 2020 hit, Colorado was there, helping the nation expand vote by mail for all. At that time, before 2020, I was the only Democratic Secretary of State in the entire nation from a vote by mail for all state. You guys joined us a little later on. And we were there, helping Americans have their voice heard, but also shining lights on the lies coming from the White House, making sure that a sitting president could not tilt an election and steal our freedoms from us. We succeeded, only to be followed by the worst attack on voting rights in recent history, but again, we succeeded again. Right on the heels of the insurrection, I was elected by my Democratic Secretary of State peers to lead the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State. An organization that in the beginning of 2021 had no full-time staff, had the highest fundraising cycle ever raised at slightly over $2 million, with the small task of saving American democracy. But we got to work. I built a team, an extraordinary team. We raised over $25 million, and we just stopped every election denier in every swing state. We stopped election deniers from overseeing elections in Michigan, in Minnesota, in New Mexico, in Nevada, in Arizona. And that's the power of Emerge. For believing in someone who grows up on food stamps, to win an impossible race, to take an impossible committee, to invest an impossible amount of money in the states to protect Americans' freedoms and elections. So thank you so much. Thank you for all of your support of me. Thank you for the support of all those women across the country who have been told over and over and over, someone like you can't win. You're not enough. You're not smart enough. You're not experienced enough. You don't look the part. And then Emerge comes and says, you are enough and you absolutely can do it. Thank you, guys.
Well, be careful not to drop that mic because you just did up there. So don't drop it again. Well, now you see how lucky I am to get to serve in the Democratic Association of Secretary of State with Secretary Griswold and just call her my friend. And yes, she is the youngest. I just turned 40 last year, so, you know, you're coming. You're coming.
Sorry.
We're coming for you.
2 more years.
But Jena, you and I are known even to the chagrin of others, as the vote-by-mail evangelists within the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State. We both love vote-by-mail, have been doing it in our states for a very long time. What else are you doing, or what are we doing in Colorado to make sure that voting is safe and accessible?
That is a great question. You know, we are seeing the worst attack on voting rights in recent times over the last 2 years. And although we have so much to celebrate, and we need to celebrate our wins, I do think that we are going to win the long game and push back on extremism. That fight is not over. The fight against this attack on voting rights is not over. In addition to opening up access, including passing automatic voter registration, registered 350,000 eligible Republicans, Democrats, and unaffiliateds. I've also acted decisively to protect our election infrastructure. Just this year alone, I passed a series of laws. It's now illegal to dox or retaliate against an election worker. I passed the nation's first insider bill in the country, the insider threat bill. I don't know if you all remember that we had a county clerk, Tina Peters, working with QAnon and the My Pillow guy, who compromised her own voting equipment trying to prove the big lie. It is now a felony to compromise voting equipment. We made it illegal to carry a gun close to where someone's voting, because no one should feel intimidation. No one should feel intimidation in exercising their constitutional rights. I've acted decisively also in 2 security breaches where local elected officials breached their own security trying to prove conspiracies. And that's what Democratic Secretaries of State need to do. You know, we're in this atmosphere of threats and vitriol against us, our election infrastructure, and election workers. And we need to have a backbone of steel, act decisively when anybody tries to undermine the right to vote, and strengthen our laws. So that's what I've been doing in Colorado.
Busy.
Busy.
Busy, busy, busy.
Well, so, you know, leading into 2020, Oregon actually had a Republican Secretary of State. So they had vote by mail for all, but obviously different dynamics with the presidential election and the party composition. So I was so happy to see Shemia win. And I wanted to ask you, you know, what more do you think Secretaries of State can do, especially on the misinformation front?
Well, tell the truth. Tell the truth. I mean, I know that sounds simple, but that really is what we have to do. Now, it's complicated. We want to tell the truth first. So one thing that we've been doing in Oregon, recognizing the mis and disinformation, it's actually amusing to me, and I am assuming it is also for Secretary Griswold. When I ran in 2020, I have never voted any other way than vote by mail. I graduated from a rural high school in 1999, and vote by mail went statewide in Oregon in 1998. This is the first state to do it. So I'd never vote. The idea of going into a little room and pulling a curtain sounds like a Schoolhouse Rock cartoon to me. I'm just gonna be honest with y'all. That sounds like people do that. Like, I've never voted any other way than, you know, at a kitchen table. And so when I ran for Secretary of State in 2020, and people would say, gosh, what's it like to run in a state with vote by mail? Because of course this is 2020 when the pandemic and everybody's doing it, and the former president was making it controversial. I said, well, up until this time, it was the most boring topic in Oregon politics. Like, nobody talked about vote by mail. It just was. It just works. It's worked for over 20 years, really over 40 years in Oregon. And so to suddenly have it be controversial caught our current secretary at the time a little off guard, because they weren't ready to pre-bunk to get ahead of misinformation. So they spent all of this time debunking, whack-a-mole. Well, you know, how could you not defraud this? And so I've made it a focus during my time as secretary to look ahead, kind of like a chess player, you know, look ahead and say, what's coming next? What are they gonna say about this or that? And then we have we worked with our county clerks and a really great design firm to create a series of PSAs that get accurate information out there. But we also had a focus in these PSAs of speaking to people in the same way that kind of, you know, Nike does, and unfortunately misinformation does. So we got a design company that made these really fun kind of 30-second videos with animated Oregon landmarks, fun, upbeat music, because one of my pet peeves about being in government is you run for office, right? And you've all seen it, you've all been a part of this, and you have cool ads and colorful Instagram stickers and catchy things, and then we become elected, and then every communication has to be the most boring thing ever to be taken seriously, but it doesn't have to be. We can get out accurate information in a way that is fun and memorable. And so that's what we've been doing with our PSA campaign. We did 2 of them last May, and just as an anecdote, the traffic to our trusted website, OregonVotes.gov, under the previous secretary in a midterm, it was about 11,000 unique visits during this period of time leading up to the primary. We went out and did a PSA campaign without even putting it on TV, just having these videos out there and sharing them. We had 121,000 unique views during the same time period, just by getting people to realize, oh, every signature is verified. Every county performs a post-election audit. Things that people don't know, but if they know it before they hear the bullshit, then they're more guarded against it. If they hear it before the lies, they're more guarded against it. So like I said in the first place, our biggest job is to tell the truth. And when we tell the truth, and we tell the truth early, and we tell the truth often, and we tell the truth in a fun way, the truth becomes memorable. And I believe that's how we're going to have to guard against these lies in our elections. I want to do a time check for folks to make sure I know that. Diane, are we good?
Keep on going.
We're going to do a time check. Keep rolling. Okay. Okay. Well, I know that this election cycle, there was a historic number of young people even younger than you, Jena, even younger than you, showing up to vote. And so what do you think that we can do as secretaries of state, as activists, as donors, to actually make sure that we keep those numbers high and keep them growing for young voters?
That's why I need everybody to remember I'm the youngest, because I realize there are people younger than me really shifting American politics. And to see younger folks get out the vote, I think it's exactly what we need to be seeing. And you know, young people know what's happening. We lost the first fundamental freedom in recent time with the overturning of Roe. And I know you guys know this, but millions of women across the nation have had their fundamental freedoms taken away, and women and little girls will die because of what happened. This isn't just some philosophical disagreement coming from the Supreme Court. This has life and death effects. So I think there's a couple things we need to do. Number one, make sure there's access to younger people. And in 2019, as part of that big historical voter access package I passed and worked with the legislature to get done, we guaranteed access on every public university. That's what states can do. We need to communicate directly with young people. You know, we run PSAs also, but we do actually paid initiatives where we're communicating with every single voter in the state of Colorado, regardless of party, alerting them of their rights. So we need to make our elections accessible, but we also have to give people a reason to cast a ballot. There's 2 parts to elections. Can you cast a ballot, and do you want to cast a ballot? And that's where I really think the Emerge Network comes in. Because, you know, look at candidates like us or elected officials like us. I still have over $200,000 of education debt today while I sit up here as Colorado's 39th Secretary of State. You know, I know what younger people go through. I know what it feels like. When I was in college, you know, I had to choose between paying rent or not fully paying electricity. I remember jumping into the shower, turning on a just scalding hot shower, getting out, turning the temperature down, putting 3 pairs of sweatpants on, and a couple sleeping bags on top of me in college. We know what younger people are going through, what the middle class is going through. And we have to run candidates that look like everyday Americans, that sound like everyday Americans, and make promises and then fulfill them. And I'll tell you guys, that first race I ran, the impossible race, I outperformed the entire Democratic ticket in more counties than not in the state of Colorado. I was the 2nd highest vote getter in the state of Colorado in 2018 on a shoestring budget. This year, I was the top vote getter for down ballot candidates in the state of Colorado. But more importantly, when I ran in 2018, I did every single thing I said I was going to do. And when our fundamental freedoms have been under attack, we're not going to be scared and stand in the background. I was happy to join the governor of Colorado and say we're not going to extradite any person for the criminalization of abortion. So we need to make sure we run candidates who actually have a vision, who excite people, who actually do what they say they're going to do. And that's why this network is so important.
It is, and I echo all of that, particularly for young voters. And I will add one. When we were doing a hearing in Oregon when I was a state senator on young voting rights, I got just lambasted in emails of people giving me the worst examples of young people they could think of. They were like, these kids are out eating Tide Pods. Remember that phase? Kids are doing this. They don't do their own laundry. And it gave all these terrible examples. So number one, we got to respect our voters and not talk bad about young voters. And so in this hearing, I had heard all of these. And so I went to this hearing and I had a slideshow. And I said, these are the arguments that I've had against kind of expanding young voting rights is, they eat Tide Pods, they don't wash their own socks, right? All these things. And so what I did was I had a slideshow where I started off with a photo of, somebody that looked middle-aged and they had stuck a beer bottle in their jeans out the zipper and then lit a firecracker in it. And then, rubbed it, then they had to kind of rub themselves out over the grass to put the fire out. And then I posted a photo, a slightly darker image of kind of a story in New York Times about a horrific domestic violence committed by a fully adult couple. And then I went even darker and showed an image of the person who committed a mass murder in Las Vegas, which was relevant, was very timely at the time, out the window. And then I stopped and I said, I have an idea. Maybe we don't judge Oregon's young people by the worst behavior of their peers, and if we're lucky, they won't judge us by the worst behavior of our peers.
Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Julia Mejia. I am a city councilor at large here in the great city of Massachusetts, Boston to be exact, and I'm also a proud Emerge alum. I am so excited to be with you all today to celebrate the impactful work this organization does. I'm also thrilled to be joined by my Emerge sister in service, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, who has also been in the front lines fighting the good fight.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Wu and I'm the mayor of Boston and a proud Emerge alum. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today to celebrate Emerge. Emerge alums are the defenders of democracy. That's what we do. Across the country, Emerge alumni are leading at the forefront of some of the biggest, most consequential issues we're facing, from abortion rights to climate resilience to accessible healthcare and countless others that affect residents across every corner of our country. And we're changing systems of power as we lead, delivering on the promise of the new American majority, building a lift as you climb culture, and repowering political structures. Just look at my city as a model for what we can create in other places. For decades, Boston was thought of as a boys' club, dominated by men, even in the face of its rapidly diversifying electorate. But I can tell you, that is no longer the case. And that's because of the ongoing work of Emerge and all of my sisters in service across every level of government here.
Before I was elected in 2019, Boston had never seen an Afro-Latina city councilor. And with over 130,000 Boston Latinos were lacking representation in their government. This created barriers to care for thousands of my constituents who weren't able to access resources like rent relief, education, healthcare, because they weren't made available in their first languages.
Since 2008, Emerge has been training women to run for office across Massachusetts, enhancing the existing political infrastructure to deliver leadership that reflects the brilliant diversity of the communities we represent. The effects of Emerge's work on the Boston City Council, the mayor's office, and up and down can be felt everywhere. And after last year's election, there are now 5 Emerge alums on the city council, with women holding a majority of seats, and another Emerge alum, myself, serving as Boston's mayor.
Because Emerge empowered me to run, I was able to empower communities across the city of Boston. And I know I'm not alone because I have seen so many women, other trailblazers, emerge sisters that do exactly the same thing. That's the power of Emerge.
Emerge paved the way for this lift as you climb culture that will last for the long term, where women are pulling one another up, holding the door wide open as we ascend to higher office. And we know that these shifts are here to stay because we're already seeing that when women step off the city council to run for another office like I did or like several of my colleagues, it's creating space for other women and people of color to run for office and win as well.
Emerge Women Defend Democracy by ensuring everyone has a voice in it, and that impact is felt across the country.
Boston is now a case study for the power of Emerge and what we can accomplish across the country. The work that Emerge is doing will replicate this success for Democratic women in city after city, state after state, all the way up to Congress and beyond. So please join me in supporting Emerge and their essential efforts to defend our democracy and build a brighter future. Thank you so much.
Join us in welcoming Colorado State Representative Leslie Herod.
How you doing? Yeah. I love this amazing room of Emerge supporters, Emerge leaders, and especially our Emerge elected officials that are just rocking it across the country, right? I'm State Representative Leslie Herod. I'm proud to represent House District 8, which is in Central and Northeast Denver. And I'm also proud to be the first African-American LGBTQ person to hold elected office in Colorado. And I've been asked to talk about kind of the journey that I had to emerge, and let me just tell you, it wasn't really a straight line. So I have been working in Democratic politics in Colorado for quite some time, and honestly never saw myself as the elected official. If you could imagine, there wasn't a lot of black folks holding elected office in Colorado. There also wasn't many black women who were holding office either. There was one, though, and that was my mentor and the woman that I was the intern for, State Representative Rosemary Marshall. I was proud to see her serve every single day, but I noticed what it was like to be the only black woman serving in the legislature. And then in that same time, Senator Jennifer Vega came out as the first lesbian to serve in the Colorado General Assembly, and she also served alone. And so I didn't know that my path was in elected office, but I knew that it was in the political power that I was going to be able to make change for our communities together. And so I started working behind the scenes to make sure that there was representation for all Coloradans. And then I remember hearing about this group called Emerge. And someone asked me if I wanted to be a part of the advisory committee. And I was like, sure, I'm happy to advise this organization to get started. I've been in every single training association and group that has come to Colorado since I was about 16. So yes, I'm happy to be a part of it. And we helped identify and look for women and board members to be a part of the Emerge Network. And then one day, I got this random idea that it was time for me to run for office. And I remember telling my friends on the Emerge Advisory Board that I was running, and they said, well, you know, to get the official endorsement, you have to be an alum. You have to go through the program. And I was like, I don't need another training program. Seriously, like I've literally ran gubernatorial campaigns, so it's gonna be very tough for me to do this. Well, I was wrong. I needed to be a part of Emerge. And I joined the Emerge Sisterhood and Network and went through the training while I was running for office. And I gotta tell you, it was the best time I spent when I ran. Because every single weekend training program that I went to, we were able to put to use all the skills that I needed to win. We made fundraising calls. I got the support of unions. I worked on my stump speech, all through the Emerge Network. But it wasn't until the day of my caucus that I realized how important that Emerge Network was. Because see, in Colorado, we have a caucus process to get on the ballot, and I chose to go through that process. I was running against one other guy,
a man, of course, yes. And we thought, you know, we kind of were doing well. We had it in the bag a little bit, but he was a Democratic Party insider, right? So he had the caucus down. And I remember going in there and looking around the room, the caucus room, and there's no one in there that looked like me, no one. Even though my district was one of the most diverse districts in the state of Colorado, they weren't the folks who went to caucuses, right? And so as folks gave their speeches and as the numbers came, it became very clear to me, and then it was clear, that we weren't winning the caucus. And in fact, in a group of about 120 people, I lost the caucus by 20 votes. I still made it onto the ballot, but I did not come in first. And there was only 2 of us, so I lost. And I remember just thinking, what do I need to do to make sure that this new American democracy and the majority actually participates in this election? Because if they don't, I don't win. But also, the voice is not represented. In fact, my opponent, he refused to go above MLK into the Black community to campaign because he thought it was too dangerous. And that was out there, right? And so no wonder people weren't participating. And so I remember that night distinctly getting a call one by one by one from my Emerge sisters saying, don't worry, we've got you. We've got you. And literally, not only lifting me up as they climb, but lifting me up off the floor and saying, you are gonna win this election. And I remember that day on my phone, the tick, 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 tick of Act Blues going up and up and up and up. And that day, I raised more money than any day I had raised on my campaign after that loss. And it was the Emerge network that said, we've got your back, and they showed up with the support within hours, within hours. And I gotta tell you, I mean, a little spoiler, obviously I was elected, but not only was I elected in Colorado, but I was elected with the highest vote count in Colorado history. And I beat my opponent by 20%. And then I went on to serve in the Colorado General Assembly. And I'm so proud to say that I have served as the chair of the Finance Committee, as vice chair of the Judiciary Committee, and most recently as the chair of the Appropriations Committee and on the Joint Budget Committee, running Colorado's $36 billion budget. But the power of the Emerge network is real, y'all. And I gotta tell you how I met Ashanti. Because this is what sisterhood really is. I remember when I was first elected, and I was on, the little bird channel. I was on Twitter, and I was kind of getting into a little bit of a testy argument, we'll say, with someone, a woman, who is a prominent gun control activist, right? Talking about how women-led organizations, white women-led organizations, have not given enough respect and participation and leadership to Black women. And looking at what Emerge had done and how Emerge lifts up women of color particularly, but women across the board, I knew things could be different, right? So we were getting into a little Twitter back and forth, and I remember it being about 10 o'clock Denver time, getting a call from Washington, D.C. I didn't know anyone paid attention to what I was doing in Washington, D.C. And it was Ashanti. And she said, hi, you don't know me, but we need to talk. I was like, oh no, what's going on? And she's like, you're Black, you're queer, you're an Emerge alum, right? We wanna see you continue going into higher office, and Twitter is not the place for this conversation. She wasn't wrong. I really had just started using Twitter, so I was on a roll, right? And she said, if you really want to make change, right? If you really want to lift up the voices of women of color and queer women in these organizations, you need to have one-on-one conversations with people who also want to do the right thing. Not pick fights, right, internally, online. And I was like, well, I know you're right, but man, I'm really annoyed right now, right? And so I did that. I went and I had a one-on-one conversation with this woman, and we talked about what it felt like to be a Black woman in these spaces. We also talked about what it was like to be a woman in a space talking about gun control, right? And now, together, we are leading in Colorado. And I gotta tell you, she has changed her tune not only to say that she will stand up for racial justice, but she's backing it up with the work. And now I'm proud to stand alongside her and say that we need to have sensible gun reform in Colorado and across the nation. And if it wasn't for those conversations, right, and that gentle touch on the shoulder that only can be done by a true sister, right, we would have gone in very different directions. And that's also the power of Emerge. And so you heard the numbers about Emerge electing over 1,000 women into office across the country. Over 1,000 in a very short amount of time. But I also want to tell you about Colorado. Not only have we elected Emerge alum in every single level of government in Colorado, right now, in House leadership, which yes, is female-led, in our chamber, 5 out of the 6 of our leadership positions are held by Emerge alumni. 5 out of the 6. And as I step back to run to be Denver's next mayor, I have enlisted an Emerge alum to take my seat on the Joint Budget Committee. But it hasn't ended there, because as we know, there are so many women that Emerge has gotten into office. But what happens once we're there? Because that ceiling isn't just broken magically because we're elected. When we want to rise up into leadership, we also need that support and that education. And so many people are afraid. Organizations are afraid to talk to elected officials and help them go up the ranks in leadership. But if we want women executives, if we want women in the Senate, right? If we want women who are running this country in the White House, we need support all the way up. And so going and in the spirit of Emerge, I looked to my sisterhood across the country and I said, as Black women, we need to do something to support each other. And I had amazing donors, a lot of you all in this room, who said, we want to support Black women in whatever you all want to do and however you want us to support your leadership. And so we said, we want to go on a retreat to build up ourselves, to refurbish our own souls after we have been getting our butts kicked, right, but leading for our communities and for our states. And we want to support each other in that. And so I partnered up with my good friend Amelia Sykes, now Congresswoman-elect, and I said, let's get some women together and start a new organization with the support of Emerge called Seated Together. Because you guys know the Shirley Chisholm saying, if you don't have a seat at the table, you bring up a folding chair. But we said, we're not bringing up just one folding chair. In fact, we're going to be seated together, and we're going to make decisions for our communities together, because we're no longer going to be the one or the only, right? That table is going to be full of women, full of women. And so we started Seated Together 2 years ago, and since then, you saw the numbers. We have had all of our women in Seated Together move up in leadership, be it in their own chambers or in positions like Congress, like we are in right now. And so I am so proud to be a part of this network, to be a part of Emerge, but also to be a part of the growth of Emerge that says, what do you need as a woman running for office? What do you need as a Secretary of State? What do I need as a Black queer woman to make sure not only am I elected, but I stay elected and I move up the ranks? And so now I'm proud to say that I am running to be Denver's first female mayor in the history of our city. And in a very crowded race of about 18 other people, I am the only Emerge alumni running for this seat. And I'm gonna win. But we are gonna win because Emerge together will make sure that we take those seats, right? We're gonna win because we have the network to win. And a lot of folks ask me, what is Emerge? Well, let me tell you what Emerge is. Emerge is a group of pro-choice women who are changed in the game across the country. We are fighting for things like paid family leave for all in our communities, right? We're fighting against election deniers and saying that we will defend our democracy, and we understand about the sanctity and the security of our own elections. And not only that, we're stepping up and having the backs of our sisters, and I'm specifically speaking too about our Secretary of State, who gets attacked every single day. And when her life was threatened, I was honored to be able to have her come to me on the Joint Budget Committee to ask for more security and support, because I gotta tell you, my colleagues didn't think a woman needed it. Didn't think a woman needed it. But when we're in those rooms, we're able to make those decisions. So I know I'm getting the rap, and I am gonna have to go. But I have to do what Emerge has taught me to do. One last thing, which is, my election is April 4th, y'all, which means my ballot's mail in March, okay? So after you fill out those envelopes and give to Emerge, I'm gonna ask you to go to leslieformayor.com and also make a contribution so that we can make sure that Denver has the next female mayor and that she is from Emerge. I'm State Representative Leslie Herod. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Oh, stay right here, okay.
So I actually want to ask Ashanti to come on stage. I'm like, no, sister, you're not going anywhere.
Oh.
I don't know if you saw our interaction. I am in awe of you.
Oh, thank you.
And I want to thank you for your kindness, and I want to thank you for your mercy, and I want to thank you for doing the hardest thing. The hardest thing that you could do is step out and step on side of your family and your community and put yourself in a space where you're, I'm gonna cry and say that you actually have the tools and the power to run a city.
Thank you.
And we got you. And we got you.
Thank you.
And we got you because, let me tell you, when we run, say we win. When we run,
we win.
When we run,
we win.
When we run,
we win.
And if we don't win the first time, when we run, we
win.
When we run,
we win.
So I wanted to keep you here because this is the sisterhood that we are creating across the country, because our space is at the dais.
Yes.
Our space is with the gavel. Malia was up and down the state with a 1-year-old baby on her hip, and that baby knows how to campaign, and guess what? She had the Emerge army behind us. Look on your tables and look at these envelopes. My 26-year-old is coming home from law school. I want her to be an Emerge. Yeah, she's 26. I had her young. I want her to be an Emerge woman. The women who will make this room beautiful after we leave, their daughters deserve to be at the dais. This is what we are building. There's a $50,000 opportunity match today. I really want us to make it. I think we can make it, right?
Yeah.
That's not that much. Woo! I'll give 1,000. I'll give 1,000. Okay? Because of what we face, and as we train and as we build, we're creating something that cannot be split. And that is thousands and thousands of strong folk who are ready to run and win in any open seat. When we run,
we win.
When we run,
we win.
Our president of Emerge, Ashanti. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you, Lateefah. Thank you to Shemia, to Jena, and thank you all for being here. So yes, all of this does cost money, and I would like to meet our budget again this year. So we do have a very generous $50,000 match. There are envelopes on the table. You can also donate online 365 days a year at emergeamerica.org. And this is just something that shows where your money goes to. You can help provide a scholarship to our boot camps. You can help us provide more scholarships to our boot camps. We have our focus on the new American majority. Help us reach those women. We want to expand the Seated Together program. Right now, it is focusing on great Black women like Leslie, but we also want to do this for Asian women, for Latino women, for Indigenous women. Your donations can help make that possible. Gavel in, we really want to expand that outside of Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. That's what the donations will help us do. And with $50K, we can train more than 250 Democratic women through our programs. So I appreciate everyone for any donation that you can make. Thank you to those of you who have already made great donations to be at this event, and make donations outside of events to make sure that we are able to do this amazing work. Even though we got started in 2002, Emerge California just celebrated 20 years, which is huge. I really like to say that we are just getting started. And we want to see more phenomenal women up on this stage telling their stories, but also about how they were able to make a great impact in their community. Because what these women are doing is changing people's lives. That is what we heard today. And your donations help make that happen. I want to thank you all so much for joining us. It was great to be back in person. This was my first big in-person event as president of Emerge. So thank you for making it so special. Enjoy the rest of your day.